really miss those days, and hopefully good days will come back again. And Vinesh, you have to congratulate me because today is the day I completed 1 year of my SN Educational Consultants. And it was a very, nostalgic day for me. So maybe, it's not the money, but yeah, trained 50,000 people. So I'm very excited today.
Wow.
So a very warm welcome to you. And Vinesh, so your 4 minutes.
Okay, so all right, I've been listening in and out. I think I dropped in and out a couple of times, and I've been listening to everyone. First of all, good evening. Sincere apologies. I must again sincerely apologize for jumping in so late. I really mean no disrespect to any of my fellow panelists or the audience. I would not have done this under normal circumstances. And really sincere appreciation, Fatima, for holding the fort single-handedly. Although I must tell you that I have no doubts that you alone are more than enough to make a statement. Okay. Look, I love today's topic. I think it's a very pertinent topic. Except that I've been noticing that somewhere we have started to debate on NEP itself. So I'm going to try and focus it really on the topic of whether it is a boon and bane for teachers as far as NEP is concerned. I think these two words are pretty extreme. Boon or bane. I think of pretty extreme words. I would ideally not categorize them as boon or bane. But if we have to really, and because it's such a sensitive topic, but if we have to really choose between the two, I think I'm an eternal optimist. And I would always feel that there is certainly a lot of reasons to feel good about what the NEP has to offer. Yes, I admit there are areas that need to be ironed out and we have to go into the details. But overall, if you look at a document that has come out after 3.5 decades, we must understand that, human beings have evolved in the last 3.5 decades. Right? I mean, there's a lot that has changed. Students have changed, adults have changed. Similarly, teachers have also evolved. We have got far more progressive. And, today, teachers and almost everyone has got they got a lot of platforms to be visible, to be heard, for opinions to be there, for views to be there. All this is not there 3.5 decades back. So we should really look at it in context of that. It's also got extremely true, the fact that the teacher's profile has got increasingly redefined over the years. I don't think any of us can push that theory back. So in this scenario, to see a document that is seeing the light after 34 years, and which really tries to, even if it is a wish list document, even if it is an intent document, if it's really encapsulating the fact that teachers are still the core X factor for education in the coming decades. I mean, this is the same case years back. This is same today. Nothing has changed. They still believe the teacher is the core, and we have to really do everything around the way a teacher functions. So I think that is I think the fact that is recognized. Now, I know that it's like saying that the sun rises in the east, but that's okay. The fact is that you have to continuously keep pounding on the fact that teacher is the core, irrespective of whatever happens around. 10 points which I have felt really which makes the cut to my eyes. And these points obviously can be debated. We should go into it in detail later. The fact that, in the coming years, this whole 4-year multidisciplinary B.Ed course is going to now be available inside HEIs or higher education institutions. It's really going to be institutionalizing the whole concept of B.Ed. And the fact that it's going to be somewhere drawing synergies with other departments like psychology, sociology, neuroscience, etc. Now, all this is very important, and we should have done it long back, no doubt. But to actually now stamp it and put a proper, document around it, mentioning that this needs to be done, I think is an important area, because a document like this eventually becomes an executable, let's call it a law, hopefully. But it has to start with the document. The fact that a teacher must be hired through a 4-stage process now, right? You have to have a B.Ed, you have to have a aptitude test going, you have to have a classroom demonstration going. Now, I remember the good old days, probably all this was done, but it was never institutionalized. You could have one school doing it, and another school need not be doing it. Hopefully, a paper like this, which actually stamps this, will ensure that there is a certain process going to be followed, whether it is a private school or a government school. And this whole 4-stage process, I think, will lead to a better output or a better teacher that's going to come out. I think the whole concept of merit-based scholarships, which they have introduced, especially in rural areas, to encourage, the top quartile students to actually become a teacher. Because somewhere there is this general feeling that the best of the best students really do not become a teacher. They move on to do other things. And it's really the ones who do not have anything else to do that becomes a teacher. So how do you make this a teacher by choice? Probably has a lot to do with the kind of people, or the students who come out. So merit-based scholarships for that. Again, I'm confessing that we need to go into the details of these things, but I'm just giving you broad-based points which are picked up, especially in Section 5 and Section 15 of the NEP, which really covers the teacher part. The NEP is actually recorded that there are a lot of teacher education institutions which are giving a degree for a price. I mean, for a document in today's scenario to actually mention this calls for guts. And they're actually saying that we got to bring these down and we got to kind of shut them out. So there is a clear plan to give them 1 year to shape up or to ship out. And for them to actually record this and say this is actually trying to say that, look, we were living in a la la land where these kind of situations existed. So I think Mr. Arora wants to say something, but I guess we'll.
No, you should have been in this conversation earlier.
Okay. Anyway, I just finished the points and then we'll.
Like that.
So
I just gave a clap. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's a clap. Okay, sorry. I thought it's a hand.
He summed it up perfectly.
Okay, now comes the whole. I think there are talks about using technology to assess vacancies. There are talks about technologies to actually be used for assessment of teachers, continuous professional development. Somewhere it is mentioned that we need to start using these. There is also a point, especially in the government schools, where they are trying to discourage transfers of teachers. I'm not going to mention, and I work with the government, so I'm not going to mention this. But let me tell you this, especially in some places which are, where there are hills and plains. Let me tell you, and I shouldn't be saying this, but there are teachers from the hills who actually pay money to be transferred to the plains and vice versa. Okay, and there is a lot of this nonsense which is happening. And probably all this is now going to be slowly, obviously they can't write all this, but the fact that they have alluded to the fact that no transfer should happen, somewhere will start ensuring that every school will start having its own ecosystem of teachers and students from the surrounding areas. And that should make the whole environment a little more robust and strong, in my opinion. I think there is a big plan to restructure NCT. I have a feeling this whole NCT is going to kind of give way to the whole national standards for teachers and NCFT, the whole curriculum that's going to be framed. So I think somewhere if that happens and it gets aligned back to CBSE, NCRT, UGC, etc., I think it's good overall for the teachers. There is a talk about 50 hours of continuous professional development that's required every year. I think there is no real change there. I think I would want to add a little extra there by saying that while CPD...
No, it used to be 60 hours. Now it's 50.
Okay, I didn't notice that. But I think they should emphasize on more sustainable continuous professional development. I think for teachers to accumulate for 3 or 4 days in a year and learn something and go back physically and then go back into the routine is not going to help. So we have to have some platform where they can actually, the Dikshas and the Swayams or any other private platforms that are there in the market today. There should be some way to actually sustain this whole teaching and some form of just like how we have got continuous evaluation of children, probably we need to bring in a continuous evaluation of teachers so that we are able to ensure that these teachers are constantly upgraded. So I didn't see much of a change there. There is talk about leadership lessons for principals. I think this is very good because the fact remains that today in schools, the principal is the chief of that infrastructure and whatever happens inside it. And unfortunately, over the years, academicians who were principals couldn't really become leaders because they have to then undergo a completely different area of understanding, a P&L of the school, logistic, transportation, all kinds of stuff. Probably this whole aspect of leadership lessons and the ability to start leading a team and not just become let's say the best of, today the principal is in a way the first choice among the academicians, right? I mean, it's a super academician who becomes a principal. So probably to actually have an academician ingrained into leadership skills, I think it's a good idea. I hope that becomes a little more detailed. Now, the fact is that somewhere, all I'm trying to say is that, yes, there is an execution strategy that has to be in place. But my point is different. Teachers of today and the wannabe teachers of tomorrow will start seeing a focused thought around this whole profession, which is not there today as much. I mean, I heard Dr. Farooq or somebody saying that today when you ask, would you like to become a teacher? There's a little bit of I'm not too keen. But, now the language is changing. You're going to have talks like these, seminars like these, discussions on NEP, the fact that this is constantly around us now probably will increase the focus for teachers. And I think that is a big start to the change that is much needed in the teaching profession. The fact that, Shalini, you just mentioned that you now touch the life of 50,000 teachers yourself. How would we know this? 30, 40 years back, nobody would know this. So the fact is that today a teacher has got opportunities to really develop herself into going beyond just teaching in a classroom. A teacher can constantly and continuously teach, just like a student has to continuously learn. A teacher can continuously teach. And to do that, I think some of the points in the NEP are certainly something which is valid. Finally, my concluding lines, look, we are a large country, we are a diverse country. The change and shifts cannot happen in a knee-jerk fashion. Unfortunately, that is the truth of this country. One cannot witness the end of an old practice and the beginning of a new practice in a sequential process. To state an obvious example, and I think everybody will allude to this, MTNL and BSNL were the whole landline leaders of this country, right? And there used to be a time when we used to wait for months and months to get our landline number. Okay, now they didn't shut it off. They just started cell phone operations in parallel, and slowly the cell phone operators started to do things which landline operators couldn't catch up with, and eventually we are reaching a stage where landline is a dying industry today, and cell phones are really becoming the talk of the town. And with each passing year, there is more innovation coming in the mobile telephony, and that is only going to make it more and more difficult for the landlines to. So what I'm attempting to say is that we need to start having a parallel process come into play, and slowly the older set of norms and processes probably integrate into the newer way of doing things. And that's the hope I have. So like I said, it's just pure optimism, but I think somewhere the document 30 years later, with some of the points mentioned, does have a certain intent. Yes, the devil lies in its execution, but it has to start with this intent and a very clear definition that the teachers are important for us, and there are things that the teachers should do as we go forward. And some 10 odd points out of this document, I think, does show that direction in the right, or shows the path in the right direction. So that's really from my side.
Thank you, Vinesh. I think very valid points. And I feel, yeah, if the NEP is trying to, improve upon the teachers, how they should work and SOPs and all that. But I think what is also important is how teachers look at themselves. And I think that's what I feel, that we need to be very proud of our profession, which I think most of the people are not. What are you doing? I'm just a teacher. So I think it is extremely important as a community that we need to ingrain that in each teacher's mind, that what you are doing, you're a nation builder. So they need to realize that, which we don't do. We don't do. So I think that's very important point from my side.
That's why, Shalini, I just to touch upon what you just said, and that's very right, and that's very pertinent. Yeah. Today, the teachers are a kind of a closed category of people who feel that their role is very important and one needs to be proud of them. I agree, but somewhere I think the government must work on more perceptions out there in terms of communication. For example, Teachers' Day, as we there's a lot of WhatsApp messages and lots of raras that go around. Yeah. But why can't the whole day be dedicated in the channels for recognizing teachers and doing things across private and government space, and actually making it into something which makes the teachers feel that they have a platform to be recognized. Those are small things that need to be done.
Yeah, I think you're right. Dr. Farooq.
These are all prayerful aspirations for every panelist here, that there will be some improvement, significant improvement. One is that this is not the only comprehensive document which has come into play. Kothari Commission was far more, comprehensive at a time when it was launched and released. It was really Bible of Indian education. It was very aspirational. If implemented in letter and spirit, India would have taken over China long back. Now the question is, can you afford time lag today in implementation? In a world where disruptions are every day, we are swept by the changes. We can't have this similar approach. We have to move out of that comfort zone. We have to move out of that environment for execution. That's what I say, that for us to realize the benefits, it is non-negotiable. Execution with necessary wisdom and skill sets, removing the layers of same mindset and bureaucracy, commitment of adequate funds to provisioning of resource and bringing the changes into play, Because you see, talent versus cost is a vexing problem. You cannot bring talent to education without not paying them education.
Yeah.
So it boils down to what I am saying, that while we all agree that even if it is halfway executed and implemented, we'll see improvement. But is that what we want as educators? Is that how we will take over other nations? Is that how our youth's aspirations will be met? That's not. What I believe, that it is the time to do or die. We can't afford any laxity anymore. You have today 80% teachers delivering the same new frontline curriculum. Who is not thinking about their shortage on skill sets in delivering a frontline curriculum? So you cannot go say, okay, this is how it is going to shape, but what is left behind, how we are going to give them ability to catch up. So it is in implementation, there's a lot to be desired that must be put on public portals to understand for us as educators in small way how this will be executed. And in 2 decades, India will be a very forward-looking nation. It will be in alignment with some of the best nations in the world. Our universities will be like Stanford and Oxford and Cambridge or Yale. That's what the intent is.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dr. Farooq. So before we move on, I have another poll because I want to get the audience opinion and everybody. I'm just going to launch the other one. 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. So here is it for everybody, and I want to take everybody's opinion. If everybody can just vote. The policy proposes the minimum teacher education degree, which Vinesh also said, requirement to change from the current 2-year to 4-year B.Ed undergraduate program by 2030. Do you think it's a good move? I want to know the thoughts of the teachers. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, let's get everybody's thoughts because it's important to know what you feel. Yeah, great. I think 48% people have voted, so I'll request everybody to vote. We just want to have an idea of what is your thought process. Yeah, so I'm... yeah.
Only 14% voting. This is worse than India election vote.
60%, 61. Come on, everybody, quickly vote. I just asking you a very simple question because it is important. The panelists are talking that it is a good move, this 4-year graduate program, and everybody is talking about it. But I want to know from you as teachers, what do you think? So 76% people have voted. Another 30 seconds. I'm closing it. 10, 9, 8, 10 seconds actually. Please quickly vote. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. 84% people have voted. And I will just share the results. Most of the people, I want the panelists' opinion. They are teachers here who think that it is not a good idea to have a 4-year B.Ed undergraduate program.
Again, Shalini, I think that's a misconception. People have not read the document.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you think?
Please, can we clarify that?
Yeah, please.
And I said that in my opening argument as well.
Yeah.
This is a great move with the NEP to invite a lot more people into the education fraternity. So basically, if I am an MBA,
right,
I can then do 2 years and then qualify to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And that's allowed. I don't have to do 4 years. So sorry, I think there's a misconception. Vishesh, I think you will endorse this.
Yeah, I will strengthen it. I'll tell you why it's important. If you look at the teacher's responsibility.
No. But if I have done an MBA, if I have invested in, in skilling in a different sort of sphere, why can't I have an advantage then?
So I think one great point, Fatima, somebody has written in the chat, Seema Wahi. I think it's a great idea, but the quality of professors in teachers training institutes also needs to be evaluated.
Of course.
That's
I
not
mean,
the question.
We're just endorsing
No,
everybody.
that's not the question, right, Shalini?
Yeah.
The question is,
No. I was
what
about
Fatima says is right.
qualification.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
about
what Fatima says is
qualification.
right. The fact is that the question is, as against today's number of years that a teacher spends getting his or her BA, is the new timeline of 4 years for a new
Okay.
teacher, or is that acceptable? Is one part of the question. The question doesn't talk about what Fatima mentioned, which is
Sure.
there's also a 2 year, there's also a 1 year. There are different categories.
Different categories.
But
Yeah.
primarily, if a person is now at ground zero and never done teaching in her or his life,
Then you
that
have to
person
do
will have
4
to go through
years.
4
right?
years,
Yeah.
Then you have to
and
do
that's
4 years.
absolutely required now. Let me put an analogy. Let me draw an analogy, and this is going to be a sensitive thing. I don't think I'm going to be very popular when I say this. If you were to, now there are a lot of MBA colleges. There's also the Ivy League. There's also category A MBA colleges. There are B, C, D. There are all kinds of MBA colleges. Now there is a move to say that people who are going to be doing a certain profession can only be those who've done MBA from, let's say, Ivy and CATI. Okay, this is the move that has happened, and you are now you're raising a question, or you're putting a poll to a lot of people who probably are not from Ivy or from CATI. Probably. Obviously, their answers will not be in favor of that because there is a change. But again, this has got nothing to do with the existing teachers. This is to do with new teachers and the new set of people are coming in. And there's a second part B to this question, which you might want to raise as a poll.
Yeah.
It also says that the teaching is no longer going to be purely part 1, part 2. It's going to be 4 parts: the formative, the preparatory, the middle, and the senior.
Yeah.
So the whole system itself is going through a change in terms of what they're going to learn. They're also going to learn technology. They're also going to learn how to handle social, emotional issues. And they're also planning to ensure that the teacher who teaches in nursery will also be able to teach in standard 10 at some point of time.
No,
So the whole curriculum is going to change.
That's again. We keep doing this. You can't compartmentalize. I mean, you can't expect someone who's teaching in nursery to teach in grade 10. That's the problem with Indian education.
No, Fatima,
I think Farooq pointed
I'll rephrase
out.
and we are in the same team, Fatima, so we'll argue offline. But I'm just kidding. But what I'm trying to say is that it's a much more intensive course than what it was in the past. And that is the reason why there is a 4-year requirement, is what I feel.
Yeah.
Fatima doesn't agree.
Shalini,
Yeah.
the response from the teacher should not surprise you.
Sure.
You must understand, we are talking about change. And existing setup, when I said that in 2012, 91% failed national eligibility test, which was basic rudimentary test. It wasn't much comprehensive in terms of pedagogical intent, talking about many things. What does it say? It says that somewhere we haven't provided adequate resources, adequate training and knowledge and skill sets for teachers to embrace this new change, what we talk about new pedagogy.
Sure.
Okay, number one. Number two, the experiment of integrated 4 years degree was there. We had College of Education in Bhubaneswar in Ajmer. And what did we learn from there? If you look at the product that time from those colleges are exceptionally very good teachers. I mean, those teachers at even middle level can teach at least 3 to 4 subjects. The problem has become when the teacher training curriculum never changed over the last 3-4 decades. The execution, they became more the centers of money spinning than actually empowerment of people who are going to shape the future of the nation. Look at those B.Ed colleges. So it's a mess. I mean, in the new document, they have addressed comprehensively that how we need to reorient, reorganize, transform teacher education. But again, my problem, I'm going back to the drawing board, that this is fine. This is aspirational for new generation, who are aspirational, who are young, energetic, and want to get into education, who are talented.
Yeah.
While we may make necessary provisions for them, what will happen to this existing one who are going to still be relevant for another 20 years?
Yeah, sure.
That is where the problem comes in, because you are still in the hands of those who have very limited understanding of this transformational thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think
Shalini ji, there are three elements to it, to be honest. One, I think we've spoken about it on many occasions. There has to be a mindset change that needs to happen across the country, and that we are talking about the cultural shift. Number one, that, you know, teaching is a profession of pride that we need to do. The second thing we are looking at that, you know, I strongly believe that once you are invested in it, once you want to be a teacher, you also discover where your value add comes in. And I strongly believe that, you know, this is one of the biggest problems of our education system, where we start saying that a pre-primary teacher is not as good as a class 10 or class 12 teacher or a subject teacher, which is not true. I strongly believe that, you know, a pre-primary teacher is more equipped being a teacher than at times, you know, a subject teacher, or at par. Like, you know, that comparison is not correct. Like, you know, it's wrong probably. So that is also something that needs to change. And with more intense programs, when you talk about a 4-year investment, probably you will have higher skilled teachers coming into the system, which is probably the requirement. The third thing,
Shalini, Kanak moving into my area.
No, but Kanak, my question is one, very simple. We had B.Ed, we had these different programs. I've also seen a lot. Most of the training programs, or even if they're planning a 4-year program, what are they including? You know, a simple teacher doesn't know the difference between a curriculum and a syllabus. You can ask.
So that's my third point, where I believe that, you know, a lot of, like, I'm going to stretch it and say that even our B.Ed program at times, you know, at some of the colleges is an eyewash, where you just go there for the heck of it, which is where I believe links it to the first point that I made, that, you know, there has to be a cultural shift. You don't really have a choice besides that. You need to have teaching as a profession of choice, and you really need to alter. And I believe that, you know, this is what's being done with the NP, where they are talking about upskilling of teachers and a continuous professional development of teachers. I think that's what's going to make a difference.
Yeah. So Anit, you wanted to share?
Yes.
Yeah,
Before that, I would like to say one thing, that when we talk about multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, we are talking about freedom, we are talking about flexibility. So if somebody is passionate, maybe it's a devil's advocate kind of a thing, that is B.Ed necessary? And I have seen most of the trainers coming and training teachers, they have not done their B.Ed, and they train very well, and they make a good connect with all the team members. Personally, I'm an engineering graduate, and when I applied for a principal, and they told me that you are only a computer science engineering graduate, and it was a love marriage to this profession. So each day was a day of learning. So I wrote to CBSE chairman, took a special permission, and then according to some of the clause, I was eligible to become an principal of a school. So believe me, it's not about B.Ed, it's not about not B.Ed, it's more about the passion. It's more about the passion. And in fact, I have seen some of the best trainers in the country, they have not done their B.Ed. And I'm too proud that I have not done my B.Ed. When we interview B.Ed teachers, you ask them very basic thing, what is Bloom's taxonomy? And believe me, they're clueless. They're clueless about it.
So B.Ed, Anit, was a eyewash. I still remember. I want to share one incident, sir. When I was a music, I joined a profession as a non-B.Ed, like Anit. I was totally joined in because I was passionate. Left my high-flying job, became a teacher, starting salary of 1,500 rupees because I love teaching. And my principal said, no, you better do B.Ed, otherwise they'll throw you out. So I still remember my B.Ed, the oral examination. So I had to show the ozone layer, and I took a sieve and I took some tea, and I told them, this is how I'll teach. And they said, Madam, itna natak nahi karna hai class mein. I mean, I'm talking about 15 years back, and I don't think so anything has changed. I agree with you, Anit.
And I would like to add, Shalini Madam comes for training to our school. And believe me, I'm in this school for last 9-10 years, and we have got around more than 300 plus trainers in our school, even more than that. The kind of connect which she is able to make, I have not seen that connect with anybody else.
There's no hand.
It's not about B.Ed or non-B.Ed. It's more about the passion.
And I share the same
understanding what you want to do.
I share the same sentiments, but the problem here is, please understand, because it's like a debate: are teachers born or they're trained? Now, when you talk of a scale, this will not serve as the purpose. While we may pick up the best people who are naturally inclined and natural teachers, for a nation to deliver quality educational provision, training becomes imperative.
Very right.
That's important. You have to
agree. I agree. Thank you so much.
Develop good
teachers.
Yeah, great.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say that that's precisely. I think kudos to Mr. Arora, kudos to you, Shalini, that passion is taken over, and I agree that this is going to be there in people, but that is not going to be enough to fill up the large volume that is required. That's all I'm trying to say.
Guys,
Secondly,
for me, it's very simple. You need qualifications. You need to know. You have to be skilled to do what you do.
Menon sir, I've got a question for you. Like you beautifully explained, and I really enjoyed listening to you. My question is that even in Kothari Commission in 1966, there was a provision of 6% of GDP. Why can't we make it a law? Like when we can make this very strong policy, now we have got a deficit of budget with every state government and with every department, that if it is below that particular range, that's a law. So why can't, if our will is so strong and if we are very strongly committed to do this, why can't we make it a law that every state government has or center has to give 6% of the GDP? Secondly, why we give capping to the schools? How the true training can happen? I can only increase my fees with 6-7% every year, and that too we are not able to do this year. We are not even considered as professionals. So with this kind of a support, how we could actually generate the resources, as Mr. Farooq Wasal also shared, that everything requires money. It is directly proportional to that. So how we'll be generating that expense, how we'll be generating that kind of money to do that?
No debate at all. 100% in agreement with both the points. I completely endorse and accept that we need to...
Point taken, Shalini madam, point taken now.
There's no doubt about it. Look, the fact is that education, I think one thing we must understand is that at least in this country, education probably, if you were to, what's the word, record it like an industry or a sector, you would realize that it is one of the largest ever sectors that is there in this country, and yet so fragmented. And therefore, it has to be brought into a certain...
Still, it is not for profit.
Yeah, and the second part is, yes, I am certainly for profit advocacy, because the fact is that you need to start showing the kind of value that you give. And the moment you have institution A versus institution B trying to match each other on value giving, I think the whole system will automatically get taken care. There is an issue there. There's no doubt about it. And I'm completely with you on that. In fact, Kanak and I, we've had these conversations. We used to use webinars and seminars as a platform to try and slowly slip in our strong need for profit advocacy in the education space. Before I conclude, I just want to say that what Fatima said and what Kanak said, I must just clarify. I am in alignment with what both of them said. I'm not trying to say that we're trying to compartmentalize. In fact, I'm a strong advocate that the people even say that pre-primary teachers get paid lesser than your pay scale goes up as you kind of go up that's wrong. I think that I'm completely in alignment with what both of them have said. What I just mentioned is with the connect that this 4-year course is very important, because somewhere I think there's a lot of learning that a teacher has to go through to really understand the entire ecosystem of a child across the 14 years of what he or she spends in the school. That's all I was trying to say. Nothing beyond that. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is, I want to just understand. Thank you, Vinesh. I think very valid points. I gave you a clap. I just want to understand from the people who are there, because the NEP says 50 hours of training, right, Fatima? And earlier it was 60, now it's become 50. Let's ask the people, how much training do they actually get? So I'm going to just launch this poll. Please quickly answer. NEP proposes 50 hours at present. Just don't mind the typo error. How many hours of training is generally given or received by teachers in a year, as per you right now? I mean, let's see how many hours of training do you get right now? So I think 9% people have voted. I'll request everybody to quickly vote. Great. I mean, yeah. Okay. If you can quickly vote, let's get a clear picture. Nobody knows your names. Just be very honest. You're not going here to please anybody. Just tell us. I just want to have some data, like how many hours of training do we actually do? So yeah, 52% quickly. We are going to just end in another 30 seconds. I think you just have to click. 61% people have voted quickly. I think, yeah, 66, 71. I would request everybody to please vote. So I'm going to close the polling now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can just see the results. So at the moment, 33% say that they get 20 hours of training in a year, and 27% say 50 hours, and 27% say 30 hours, and less than 10 hours, 13% people are saying. So I think we get a clear figure, the importance, and this is not a right number of people to give us the actual figure, but what my thought process is, I mean, I think we have got just another 2-3 minutes. My thought process is that NEP is a wonderful, wonderful document, something which we have been waiting as an educator for years, but how are we going to achieve it? You know, if they're not ready to give the teachers the requisite kind of training, okay, the 4-year B.Ed, as Fatima, as Binesh, and as Dr. Farooq said, that is by, you know, it will take time. But what about the teachers at the moment, if they do not know? So we definitely do not want it to be shelved like another CCE, which was an, you know, commendable kind of a thing, just because of finances, just because the teachers couldn't be trained. So they had to take it off the shelf. And I think this document, we really look forward that it should come true, but I just hope it becomes an action-oriented document rather than just a dream. So your last thoughts, yeah, Dr. Farooq.
At the root of this, you know, whole training process, let's say in the document, do we have national teacher standards which we want to achieve?
Yeah.
And if we have the document as part of NEP, what is the necessary time capsule that's attached to deliver those standards?
Right.
Then you can plan your training. Now, this training is arbitrary. This training is absolutely skilled. You see, there is something called non-negotiable skills across the teachers, which will be desiredly, you know, put forward and brought through the 4 years integrated program. But in order to ensure that we all recognize education is evolutionary, challenges will be multiple for teachers to be on the learning curve. 4 years integrated course will be supplementary, supported, aided, abetted by the training. And what is that training? We need to understand the complement of training against what standards we want to achieve.
Yeah,
so it's a document that needs far more probing into current reality and what is our aspiration, national aspiration.
So Dr. Farooq, there is a national performance standards for teachers. I think that has been mentioned in NEP, and I think it's supposed to go live by 2021 or 2022. I'm not able to recollect. So I'm hoping, like he rightly said, I'm hoping that by then that also. Now, one good thing which is happening, at least I feel it is happening. Earlier, probably we were not able to keep track or keep pace with really what is happening in the governance machinery of the country. What is the bureaucrat doing? What is the Secretary of Education now doing? Is the whole process starting to move? Fortunately, now with the kind of information that can be shared on the public platform, you can actually see what Ms. Anita Karwal is actually putting together in terms of execution. I think she's had a lot of programs and platforms where she's addressed state secretaries and even folks like us, where she's given a very clear picture as to what is going to be done by this period, and hopefully now they'll start executing it. Now we can ask questions. Look, you promised this. Why haven't you done it yet? So I think that way there's a little bit of a change probably in what's happening today. On the whole 50 hours, Shalini, there is obviously this pre-service and the in-service. For in-service, I believe we should just bunk this whole concept of number of hours of training. I think just like how there is continuous learning for students, there has to be continuous training for, it has to be a consistent process. You cannot start saying that, halt yourself, come to some place, learn and go back. It is not going to work. It has to be continuous in some form, and it has to be relevant to the times that you're constantly going through. So I don't quite understand that whole 50 hours piece at all.
Yeah, I think what you said is right. The training has to be continuous, and moreover, the way the trainings are conducted right now, madam, kaun sa training kar sakte ho aap, jo bhi kar sakte ho aap kar do, kyunki mandatory hai. It's not done like that. You need to know what are the needs of the teachers, where are they lacking. They might be lacking in math and we are doing training in English, so it doesn't make sense. So I think it's a shift in mindset, and I think we really need to, we're not realizing the humongous task in front of us, because I mean, by the time I am 2030, right? So 10 years more, I mean, I may be with one foot in my grave, but I really hope that I'm able to say that NEP has come through. So let's just hope and let's work towards it, inshallah. And I hope the management and everybody, collaborates. Because I think what is Vinesh and Dr. Farooq and Kanak and Fatima, the first priority, and my message is to everybody who's watching, please make your teachers read the document. They don't know. They don't know what is in the document. Unless you've read, the document, you will not know what exactly it says, and you're just attending a webinar and you have no idea of what is happening. So I think that is mandatory. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody.